There comes a moment in a man's journey when something subtle shifts inside him, not with fireworks or sudden revelations, but more like a quiet breeze that changes the air ever so slightly. For the Sigma male, this shift often happens when he begins to truly hear a woman, not just the words spoken, but the spaces between them. He realizes that meaning isn't always carried in the obvious. It's hidden in pauses, in the softness of tone, in the silence before something vulnerable rises to the surface. This isn't a skill learned from books or dating guides. It's a presence cultivated through awareness and observation. Psychologists often point out that over 70% of communication is nonverbal, and this is where the Sigma male thrives. His natural tendency to observe rather than dominate allows him to notice what others miss. The slight hesitation before a confession, the subtle warmth in a glance, or the way a laugh carries both joy and a trace of fatigue. While many men chase tactics to win conversations or impress with rehearsed lines, the Sigma male's power lies in his stillness. Like deep water, he reflects what is before him, creating a space where authenticity naturally emerges. Consider a simple example, a conversation over tea. To the untrained ear, it's small talk. But to the Sigma male, the rhythm of her pauses, the careful choice of words, and the way her expression shifts reveal her true state far more than the sentences themselves. He recognizes that women, like men, often need more than what they explicitly ask for. Sometimes it's reassurance without being prompted, presence without distraction, or silence that doesn't demand to be filled. This doesn't mean he changes to perform or manipulate. Instead, he adapts because he sees reality more clearly. His masculinity isn't about grand gestures or constant displays of dominance. It's grounded in quiet confidence, patience, and genuine understanding. That is the Sigma's path. To master the unspoken, to hold space without pressure, and to let authenticity guide his connection. In this revelation, relationships stop being a battlefield of words and become something steady, balanced, and profoundly human. And number one, she speaks in emotions, not just words. A Sigma male learns to listen beyond language in a way that many people overlook. While most conversations focus on the literal meaning of words, he pays attention to what lies beneath them. Human communication is only about 7% verbal, according to studies in psychology, with tone, pitch, and nonverbal cues making up the rest. This is where a Sigma male thrives. He discerns mood shifts in a woman's vocal tone, the subtle hesitation in a pause, or the heaviness carried in a sigh. These details might seem minor to the untrained ear, but they reveal entire emotional landscapes. A sigh could mean exhaustion, frustration, or quiet reflection, and a change in pace might signal nervousness or excitement. By recognizing these cues, he isn't just listening to words, he's listening to emotions. Women, in particular, often communicate in layers. Instead of bluntly stating their feelings, they weave them into tone, phrasing, or timing. A woman might say, "I'm fine," but a Sigma male will notice if the words are flat, strained, or forced. He understands that fine might mean hurt, overwhelmed, or unheard. This ability doesn't come from manipulation or overanalysis, but from a quiet attentiveness that values depth over surface-level talk. While others rush to respond, he leans into silence, giving space for unspoken truths to surface. What makes this ability educational to note is that it reflects advanced emotional intelligence, a skill psychologists link to stronger relationships and effective leadership. Emotional intelligence isn't about reading minds, it's about recognizing the emotions driving behavior. A Sigma male, by training himself to hear what's not explicitly said, fosters deeper connections. He sees the human behind the words, which builds trust and respect in his interactions. Entertainingly, it almost gives him a sixth sense. While others are caught off guard by sudden mood shifts, he already saw the storm brewing in subtle changes of tone or rhythm. Imagine him in a conversation where a friend insists they are happy with their job. While everyone else nods along, he notices the slight downturn in her voice when she says happy. Later, when she finally confides her doubts, it doesn't surprise him. He already knew. This quiet skill is what sets Sigma males apart. By listening beyond language, they navigate relationships with clarity, understanding emotions before they are spoken aloud. It's not about having superhuman perception, but about valuing silence, nuance, and the art of truly listening. That's what creates the deeper understanding most people crave but rarely achieve. Number two, vulnerability is strength, not weakness. He observes that when she shares her vulnerability, it's not a cry for someone to rush in and save her, it's an invitation to connection. Vulnerability, in its truest sense, is an act of courage. Psychologist Brené Brown describes it as the birthplace of intimacy, creativity, and trust. When a woman opens up about her fears, insecurities, or even her past wounds, she isn't necessarily searching for a problem solver. She's looking for someone who can hold space for her emotions without judgment. This is where many men misunderstand the dynamic. Conditioned by society to equate masculinity with fixing, they sometimes assume that every confession requires a solution. But true strength in these moments isn't in rushing to mend what's broken, it's in standing steady, offering presence rather than prescriptions. She values emotional bravery, the willingness to be still, to listen, and to stay grounded when her world feels shaky. This doesn't mean passivity, it means showing resilience, the kind that says, I hear you, I'm with you, and I won't collapse under the weight of what you're carrying. Neuroscience even supports this. Studies show that when people feel heard and emotionally validated, their brains release oxytocin, the bonding hormone, which fosters deeper trust and intimacy. The act of attentive listening can lower cortisol levels, easing stress and reinforcing that sense of safety in the relationship. Historically, the archetype of the protector has often been misunderstood as the fixer, the knight rushing in to slay the dragon. But in modern relationships, protection takes a different form. It's not about shielding her from every hardship, but about being a safe harbor when the storms of life rage. By resisting the urge to immediately intervene, a man communicates confidence in her strength while simultaneously offering his own. This balance is crucial. Too much fixing can feel condescending, as if he doubts her ability to handle her own struggles. Too little presence can feel dismissive. But the middle ground, steady empathy, creates a bond stronger than quick solutions ever could. In this way, vulnerability becomes a bridge, not a burden. By honoring her courage to share without trying to rewrite her story, he strengthens the foundation of trust. She doesn't need rescuing. What she needs is a companion who understands that emotional bravery isn't about erasing pain, but about facing it together. Number 3, authentic presence trumps performance. In a world where conversations often feel rushed, rehearsed, or distracted by screens, the simplest gestures can have the deepest impact. Small, almost unnoticed actions, like a calming nod or an attentive silence, often carry more weight than rehearsed compliments or predictable displays of chivalry. These subtle cues demonstrate something far more powerful than charm. They reveal genuine presence. Research in psychology shows that nonverbal communication accounts for nearly 70% of how we interpret meaning in interactions. That means people are paying closer attention to body language, eye contact, and tone than to the actual words being spoken. A thoughtful pause, leaning slightly forward, or holding steady eye contact can signal interest and respect more effectively than any carefully chosen sentence. Being truly present in a moment requires more than simply hearing. It means listening with the intent to understand, not just to reply. Think of the times you've shared something deeply personal, only to have the other person jump in with a quick solution or a story about themselves. That kind of response often leaves us feeling overlooked rather than understood. On the other hand, when someone allows silence to hang in the air, nods gently, and gives you space to express yourself fully, it builds a rare sense of safety. Studies have shown that this kind of active listening strengthens trust and deepens connections, whether in friendships, professional relationships, or romantic settings. Interestingly, this principle is not new. It's rooted in ancient wisdom. The Greek philosopher Epictetus once said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." The idea is timeless. Presence is more impactful than performance. In modern terms, this is what psychologists call attentional presence, a state of being fully engaged in the moment without distraction. Neuroscientists have even discovered that when someone feels genuinely listened to, their brain releases oxytocin, the bonding hormone, which creates a sense of trust and emotional closeness. So the next time you're tempted to impress someone with flashy words or grand gestures, remember that authenticity often whispers louder than theatrics. The nod that says, "I hear you," the silence that gives space for another's voice, or the simple act of putting away your phone during a conversation, All of these build connections far stronger than scripted charm. In the end, being genuinely present is not just an act of respect, but a gift that people remember long after words fade. Number 4, listening is active, not passive. The Sigma male appreciates that listening is not just quiet, it is reflective. For him, true listening goes beyond simply waiting for his turn to speak or nodding at the right moments. It is about creating a space where the other person feels fully seen and understood. Unlike many who rush to fill silences with advice or quick reactions, the Sigma allows silence to do its work. He understands that when someone speaks, they are often revealing more than just words. They are opening windows into their thoughts, emotions, and even hidden struggles. This is why he practices reflective listening, a technique studied in psychology and counseling, where one gently repeats or paraphrases what was said, not to mimic, but to show genuine presence and validation. In everyday interactions, this looks subtle yet powerful. Imagine someone venting about a stressful day. Instead of cutting in with a solution, the Sigma might quietly echo, "It sounds like you felt overwhelmed." That small reflection signals safety and acknowledgement, encouraging the speaker to explore their feelings more deeply. This approach is rooted in the concept of active listening, a communication method developed by psychologist Carl Rogers in the 1950s, which is still taught today in therapy, coaching, and leadership training. It has been shown to reduce conflict, build trust, and strengthen emotional bonds. The Sigma male thrives on these understated dynamics. He knows that people often aren't looking for immediate answers. They are searching for resonance. By resisting the urge to rush in with judgments or quick fixes, he validates the other person's reality. Neurological studies show that when individuals feel genuinely heard, their brains release oxytocin, a hormone linked to bonding and trust. This means that the Sigma's quiet, reflective presence doesn't just feel good, it literally reshapes the brain's chemistry toward connection. What makes his listening style unique is that it isn't performative. He's not listening simply to appear empathetic or gain social points. His intent is rooted in authenticity and self-awareness. The Sigma recognizes that sometimes the deepest truths are unearthed when there is enough space for silence, reflection, and patient attention. In a world where noise dominates and everyone fights to be heard, his listening becomes an act of quiet rebellion. It's not about being passive, but about being intentional, allowing others to unfold in their own time. This is why people often leave conversations with him feeling lighter, more understood, and strangely empowered, as though they have spoken to someone who not only heard their words, but also their soul. And number 5, she values thoughtful questions over empty praise. In today's world, where quick messages and shallow exchanges dominate, the way we choose our words can determine whether we deepen a bond or let it skim the surface. Too often, conversations rely on predictable phrases like "you look great" or "I'm proud of you." While kind, these expressions can lose their weight when repeated without real thought. A man who truly seeks to connect takes a different route. Instead of recycling routine compliments, he asks something far more meaningful. What kept you going today? It may sound simple, but in reality, this question carries a depth that goes beyond flattery. Psychologists note that human beings crave validation, but not just any kind. What nourishes connection is recognition of one's struggles, perseverance, and inner world. Studies in relationship psychology show that bonds grow strongest not through extravagant gestures, but through small, intentional moments of acknowledgement. By asking such a question, a man signals that he sees his partner as more than her appearance or accomplishments. He sees her journey, her resilience, and her unspoken battles. This also reflects the art of mindful communication, where listening replaces waiting for your turn to talk. The beauty of this question lies in the space it creates, an opening for vulnerability, reflection, and authenticity. From a masculine perspective, it shows quiet strength, confidence rooted in presence rather than performance. In the end, relationships flourish not on rehearsed phrases, but on words that prove we are truly seen. Sometimes the most powerful way to say "I love you" is to ask and mean it. Number 6, emotional rhythms matter. He notices changes in energy, restlessness, calm, withdrawal. Unlike most people who get caught up in reacting, he pays close attention to the subtle shifts in behavior and atmosphere around him. This is one of the traits that set him apart. For example, when someone becomes restless, he doesn't immediately step in with demands or questions. Instead, he observes, allowing space for that energy to reveal its cause. If calmness is present, he mirrors it, creating an environment of ease where others feel safe to be themselves. When he senses withdrawal, he doesn't panic or chase. He respects the distance, understanding that people often need time to process their emotions. This level of awareness comes from emotional intelligence, the ability to read nonverbal cues, understand feelings without words, and respond with empathy rather than ego. What makes this ability powerful is that it doesn't come from manipulation but from attunement. Science backs this up. Studies in psychology have shown that people who are more sensitive to emotional signals are better at building meaningful connections because they respond to needs instead of forcing interactions. In relationships, whether romantic or social, this becomes invaluable. Imagine being around someone who doesn't pressure you when you're overwhelmed, but simply adjusts their energy to match what you need in the moment. It's refreshing, even healing. That's why people with this trait often draw others to them without even trying. They provide balance in a world that often feels chaotic. He adapts his presence like a skilled navigator steering through shifting weather. Sometimes he becomes the anchor, steady and grounded, helping others feel secure. At other times, he becomes a quiet presence, letting the silence do the work. This flexibility shows confidence. He doesn't need to dominate every space, nor does he feel threatened by withdrawal. Instead, he embodies the rare strength of patience and understanding. This is not passivity, but wisdom, the recognition that forcing energy only creates resistance. In a culture where constant talking, chasing, and proving oneself are glorified, his way of simply being stands out as both mysterious and magnetic. He teaches an important lesson. Connection isn't about filling silence or controlling outcomes. It's about reading the moment, respecting it, and adapting with grace. By doing so, he not only deepens his own presence, but also gives others permission to breathe, reflect, and return when they are ready. Number 7, respecting her quiet strength. She may navigate challenges silently without complaint. This quiet strength is often overlooked, yet it speaks volumes about her resilience. In today's world, resilience is commonly portrayed as bold declarations of confidence or visible acts of defiance. But in truth, resilience often whispers rather than shouts. A woman who carries her burdens without announcing them to the world embodies a form of inner fortitude that psychology recognizes as emotional regulation. Studies show that individuals who manage their emotions privately often develop stronger coping mechanisms, enabling them to recover more effectively from stress. Aware of this, he does not push her to share every detail or pressure her into performing her pain. Instead, he offers what is far more valuable: space and trust. This reflects a deep understanding of healthy relationship dynamics. In sociology, mutual respect and trust are considered pillars of strong partnerships. By respecting her silence, he communicates that he believes in her ability to handle life's storms, while still being present if she chooses to lean on him. This balance creates an environment where she feels both independent and supported. Resilience, after all, isn't always loud. It doesn't always manifest as dramatic victories or triumphant speeches. Sometimes it is the quiet determination to keep moving forward, the choice to endure without seeking recognition. And when a man recognizes and honors that form of strength, he not only validates her resilience, but also deepens the bond of trust, proving that true support doesn't always need words. Number 8, connection grows in the unspoken spaces. Beyond words, connection lives in pauses, shared silences, and the rhythm of mutual breathing. These moments are often overlooked, yet they hold a power that language alone cannot capture. In fact, psychologists studying nonverbal communication have found that nearly 65–70% of human interaction is conveyed without words. Silence, rather than being empty, becomes a vessel that carries meaning, comfort, and presence. Consider the way two close friends can sit together without speaking for hours, yet leave feeling more understood than after a long conversation. This is because the nervous system responds to safety and attunement in another person, and shared stillness can regulate emotions more effectively than dialogue. In relationships, both romantic and platonic, silence is not necessarily an absence, but a presence, an affirmation that you don't need to fill every space with chatter to feel close. Neuroscience even supports this idea. Synchronized breathing and heart rates between people are measurable, showing how deeply bodies can connect without words. Ancient wisdom traditions like Zen Buddhism have long emphasized the power of silence in fostering connection, teaching that stillness creates a gateway to deeper awareness and intimacy. When someone chooses to rest in that space, anchored and unhurried, understanding naturally deepens. It is in those pauses where trust grows, where empathy is felt, and where true connection is forged. Words may explain, but silence reveals. In a noisy world, learning to value these quiet moments can transform how we relate to others and how we truly feel seen. When a Sigma male understands these quiet truths about women, not as lessons to master, but as invitations to deeper presence, everything changes. His masculinity becomes not a performance, but a calm foundation. His strength becomes soft and thoughtful. And relationships transform, not through drama, but through still, sincere alignment. If this reflection resonates, consider holding these moments of quiet understanding in your own life. Let them shape how you listen, how you respond, and how you simply are.